everybody, John McClellan here, ATX Hot Sauce, atxhotsauce.com. Got a great recipe for you here today. Stay tuned, we're making the Big Green. If you like the video, subscribe below. One of my most fundamental things we love doing when we're making this is making sure you have a book, making sure you're keeping records of everything you do when you make these fermentations. We're gonna go over a simple fermentation process today, 3.5% brine, and we're gonna make one of our hot sauces that we have. It's called the Big Green. We're going to be using roasted poblanos, carrots, ancho chilies, cilantro, tomatillos, onions, jalapenos, a little bit of cardamom, a little bit of garlic. Going to combine it all together in the ferment. We're going to let that ferment for a couple of months, but right now I'm going to show you how to make the fermentation itself. Listen, one of the most important things when you're making a fermentation is that you want to chop up all your fruits and veggies that are in there. I've seen some things online, people have questions, and I see their fermentations and they put whole peppers in there. The problem with putting a whole pepper in your fermentation is that you don't let the brine get into it, right? And what can happen, it can rot from the inside out, and you don't want that for your fermentation, right? You want everything in that brine all settled in to get that fermentation process started, to get all those good bacteria working in there. So one of the best ways and easiest ways I find to chop jalapenos is not to chop them, is to use a mandolin. You put it on this biggest setting here, cut them up. Now be careful with this mandolin because it's got a very sharp blade on it right here, and you can cut your finger off pretty bad. And cut the finger off is really bad, right? Anyway, it makes for real quick work on these jalapenos and on the carrots themselves. Also, what I recommend with the carrots, don't peel them, but you can use a mandolin and make sure you do wash them off. Just as simple as this. All right, so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna put the cilantro in here. We've already washed this. Don't be afraid to leave some of the stems on there. They're gonna be all blended up when we actually make the sauce. What I like to do is just cut the top off right here and stuff it down in the jar, right? Next, we're gonna add 5 grams of cardamom seeds. We're gonna do 35 grams of garlic, whole garlic cloves, make sure they're peeled, right? And then we're gonna add our carrots in here. Gonna take our poblanos and we're gonna take the stems off of these. And what I did is I put these in the oven on broil and just broiled the outside and get a little nice char on there. If you do it the right way, all you gotta do is pull that out. Take the majority of the seeds. Let's do that again. Pull that out. Take those seeds out right there. You can leave some of the seeds in, that's just fine. Then make sure you can chop this up. And we're gonna get this all back in here too. All right, next we're gonna add our tomatillos. In this batch for about a gallon-sized jar, I use seven medium-sized to small-sized ones. Make sure you chop these up too. I just cut them into quarters. Okay, gonna get these in the jar. This thing is just priceless, by the way. I love this. Don't have to worry about all your fruits and vegetables getting on the side of the jar, which can promote mold, by the way. Got a couple more we're gonna put in. The tomatillo gives it kind of this little tang that you're really looking for in a green sauce. All right, got all those in there. Next, well, we need a little bit of heat, don't we? And where are we gonna get that heat from? We're gonna get it from the jalapenos. Now, I've already chopped up a bunch of the jalapenos here, a little bit of the carrots too on that demonstration. And we're gonna take these and we're gonna fill this up. You might wanna wear gloves if you're a little sensitive. I've handled so many hot peppers in the last year or so that jalapenos typically don't bother me at all. You know, jalapenos, for some people it's very spicy. It's kind of on the lower end of the Scoville scale, especially compared to habaneros or some of the super hots that we use in some of our other peppers. Now you can tell I'm filling this up, but we're gonna press this all down and compress it down in here. because one of the most important things when you're making a fermentation is you leave enough head space, because what happens when the fermentation process starts, it's going to expand, right? And you don't want it to expand out everywhere. So let me show you a neat little trick we use to do that with. Be right back. All right, now before we compress all this down, we got to put the ancho chilies in here, right? I find that if you cut the stem off of these, it's easier to get all the seeds out. And why do you don't want the seeds in this? The seeds have a lot of tannin in them, and they can make the sauce a little bit bitter, and you really don't want that. So take as many of the seeds as you can out. Fine, just take the stem off right here, and you can just dump them in the sink or in the garbage can or whatever it may be. And then you just get the whole, right, the shell of it, basically. We're going to chop this up too. Make sure you get fresh ones of these. You don't want them too dried out. They want to have like the consistency of a raisin, right? That means all those oils and stuff are still present in the pepper itself. Gives you a really great smoky flavor to this sauce. All right, we got that in here now. The magic rod here. Take this, flip it over, and we're going to stuff all this stuff down here. Remember, we want to keep some head space here, because when we add the onions, which are going to be our cap, we don't want a lot of head space. We need some head space. All right, we got that all pounded down, right? Simple, such a simple recipe here. Next thing I want to do, I'm going to add an onion cap. I use weights a lot of times, but most of the time I actually use onions on the top of a fermentation. They weigh down all the fruits and all the fruits and vegetables that are below it. So you just want to cut your onion, and then we're going to make it in big slices like this. Take that outside ring off. All right, there's one. There's 2, 3. Let's do one more on top of here. Right there. Basically, you're just creating a barrier, right? And it's going to hold a lot of that stuff down inside there. One more. And there we go. Now we're ready for our 3.5% brine. Stay tuned, I'm going to show you how to make the brine. It's very, very simple. All right, guys, let's talk about the brine. I use a 3.5% water brine in mine, and I use it as the weight. The 3.5% is compared to the weight of the water itself. The easiest way to do it is if you have a container like this, it shows it in liters. For every liter you have is 1,000 grams of water. So if I want a 3.5% brine, right, I'm going to have to put 105 grams of salt in this water to get a 3.5% brine. If I had 1 liter, which would be 1,000, that would be 35. 2 would be 70. 3 is going to be 105. Best way to do this, get your scale. Zero it out. Okay, I'm on grams. I like to use kosher salt, and we use distilled water too. So we're going to get 105. I know it seems like a lot. All right, there we go. 105 grams of salt. We're going to mix this into here. Now we're going to stir this up for a few minutes until it's clear, and then we're going to add it in. All right, now that our brine is cleared up, we're going to pour it into our container here. Now remember, we need to leave some head space in here. As you're pouring the water in, there's probably air pockets in here, so you want to shake it just a little bit. Probably don't need this anymore. Just shake it up, roll it around. Let water get there. I'm going to add just a little bit more. There we go, perfect. Now here's a real important step. You want to sanitize your lid and your airlock. I take my Star Sand, and I'll leave a link down below what this is and where you can get it. It's a sanitizer, it's food safe. We're just going to get, this is where the mold can get in. and get that bacteria going. So we actually do that. You should probably let it sit for about 3 or 4 minutes. Just to be good. This has been sitting long enough. We're going to put this right on here. All right. Then we take this, throw a little airlock on, shove this right down in here. Now you want a liquid to create a barrier here. So as the fermentation releases CO2, it pushes all the oxygen out, right? What I like to do is a little bit of my favorite vodka. A little bit for me, a little bit for the fermentation. And put that in there. Don't want to fill it up too much. There we go. Put a cap on it. And guess what? In about 2 months, this will become this. This is how you make the big green. This is a simple fermentation process, 3.5% brine. Tell you what, you're going to love this recipe. It's not too spicy. It's not going to blow your head off. The fermentation gives it a natural acidity. Stay tuned for the next video when we do the bottling of this. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe below.